and welcome to the Diocese of Paisley podcast with me, Vanda. We've probably all heard the term Red Wednesday, but if I'm being completely honest, I didn't know too much about it, except for the fact that it's a term coined by Aid to the Church in Need. It has its very own day, which is the 19th of November, and it also has its own hashtag, hashtag Red Wednesday. So it must be very important. So to find out more, I decided to come along to meet the diocese's very own Bishop John. Bishop John, thank you for making time out of your busy schedule to explain a little bit more about Red Wednesday to us.
I'm very happy to do so because this is one of the really important issues in our world, actually, in 2025, the new millennium, which really doesn't get the cover that it should.
It's such a big day, but we don't really talk about it a lot.
No, we don't talk about it. It's known, probably it's getting known across the world, but sadly, it's quite unknown in Scotland, and I would probably say, also sadly, there's a lack of awareness about the scale of the persecution of Christians and other faith communities across the world, and I think we have to change that. And Red Wednesday is just a great means of beginning to change that, to raise public awareness of just of the extent and the sadness of religious persecution across the world. Red Wednesday is actually part of a week called Red Week, and really, in essence, this Red Wednesday and this week is, I would say, it's a global cry for religious freedom, and that's organised by Aid to the Church in Need. And the theme is the colour red. Oh, why red? Because that's the colour of martyrdom, and it reminds us that even today there are so many who are suffering for their faith and even being put to death for their faith. I also like to think of red as the colour of red alert. When you get a red alert, you just stop everything and you put away everything and you just focus on something which is really urgent. Well, what this is about is Aid to the Church in Need asking us to raise awareness of religious persecution across the world, the extent of it, the violence of it, but also to advocate for the right to religious freedom, because religious freedom is one of the most fundamental of human rights, and yet across the world it's one that is transgressed so often. So what the ACN does is it invites parishes and schools and communities to do whatever they can in joining this international gesture of solidarity. The idea is focused on red, so it will be lighting up iconic buildings red, and for the first time ever this year, they've managed to have the European Parliament in Brussels illuminated red, but it involves other buildings. If you're in France, in Paris, you'd see that the obelisk in La Concorde is lit up, and the iconic Pont Neuf and Pont des Arts are lit up, and lots of places across the world, from Australia to Europe to the Americas, are doing what they can to just bring this issue to public awareness. They reckon it probably involves now about 10,000 people directly across the world, but because of social media, the participation is something like 500,000 who are becoming aware of this issue across the world.
So what did you do for Red Wednesday here in the diocese?
So in our diocese, for the past couple of years, we have lit up our cathedral red, and this year we celebrated a mass in our cathedral. We used the scriptures of the day, the scriptures that would be used across the world for that mass on that day in November, the same scriptures that Pope Leo would have been praying in the Vatican, but they were really appropriate. The first reading was from the book of Maccabees, and it told about the story of religious persecution, even a couple of centuries before Jesus was born. So over 2,000 years ago, this was a story of a mother with 7 adult sons, and each one of them was put to death one by one because they refused to eat unclean meat, as the state at the time had been requiring them to do, to show allegiance to the state. And it's a pretty moving story about how, when it gets down to her last son, her youngest son, how she even encourages him to keep his faith, and so he's put to death as well. So I spoke about how religious persecution is almost as old as Adam and Eve, but it's particularly prevalent in today's world. People wouldn't know this, but it's a fact that in the 20th century and the new millennium, there have been more Christians martyred for their faith than in every other century put together. So if I were to say to you, well, tell me, if you think about Christians and martyrs, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind is the Colosseum in Rome, or things like that, or being thrown to wild animals. What doesn't come to your mind is today, 2025, in Africa, in Asia, in different parts of the world, Christians being put to death, or not just put to death, or so many different things, and not just Christians, facing discrimination, having their property damaged or destroyed, their churches destroyed, not being able to express their faith in public spaces, being discriminated against in their access to public office or education or justice, experiencing physical violence, detention, displacement, having to flee their countries and never return. That's all happening here and now under our nose today as we speak. And so that's something I wanted to bring across when I was celebrating Mass.
So tell me then, does this affect other faiths?
Yeah, sadly, religious persecution doesn't stop at Christianity. Far from it. It really is a global emergency affecting all faiths, creeds, and because of that, it's affecting all of humanity. Aid to the Church in Need says that 2/3 of the countries of the world are places where there is some form of religious discrimination or persecution. Probably the one that we know most recently, sadly, was the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. They're still labelled as stateless by the Myanmar government, which has meant decades of discrimination for them. But you remember 2017, the military campaign against them that resulted in thousands of deaths and 700,000 displaced to Bangladesh. It was considered by the world broadly as ethnic cleansing. It involved killings and sexual violence, destruction of villages, and despite international condemnation, that they still are denied basic rights to citizenship or education or freedom to practice their faith. Again, as we speak, they're living in cramped refugees camps, no access, limited access to food or healthcare or security, and facing further violence. And that's just one group, but you could repeat that whether it be Hindus or Sikhs or wherever across the world. It really is. It's a burning issue. I mean, I think it's a hard one for our Western secular media and culture to deal with, because they've been raised on a sort of in the political sphere, they've been raised in this sort of narrative, and that narrative is that religions are actually the cause of war, and religions are the cause of oppression of people. And so it's difficult for them to imagine that actually religious people themselves can be the victims, or the church can be the victim of persecution. In Europe, we normally think of the church and Christian powers as being oppressors. There's some truth in that, isn't there? You think of the religious wars after the Reformation that tore Europe apart, or maybe you can think of a century later the spread of European empires, whether Portuguese or Spanish or Dutch or British. They went out and they conquered the Americas and the Far East and Africa, maybe quite brutally, and whether they were Catholic or Protestant countries, they brought their religions with them, and the indigenous to conversion. Well, our secular age sees this as dominion of powerful Christianity imposed on the world. And so that makes it difficult for the media to come to terms with the fact that actually persecution and martyrdom of Christians is now taking place across the world. I think as I say, the number of martyrs and people who are persecuted for their faith is enormous, and that's sometimes religion on religion, but not always. There's some pretty well-known superstates who are persecuting religions just because they are religious. So I think there's a narrative that our media and our culture has to deal with before it can actually see that those who have a religion, a faith, Christianity, whatever, are not just people who in the past were maybe the ones who were dominating, but now in this world are the ones who are being persecuted. There's no doubt about it. It's a blind spot. I think the children, the schools, the young people in the schools are picking this up. They're hearing all of this information from Aid to the Church in Need, which is trying to raise awareness. It's trying to rebuild religious communities across the world. It's trying to help them with financial and other aid as much as they can. And when they hear about this from Aid to the Church in Need, they say, why is this not in the news? Why am I not? We're hearing about all different kinds of abuses of human rights on the news. Why are we not hearing about this one? I think the young people are right. It's a blind spot. There's no doubt about it. It's a blind spot in our media. But hopefully, Aid to the Church in Need, Red Wednesday, is addressing that. We're now beginning to see all different kinds of media getting interested, getting involved, and especially when you think of it's linked with their report on religious freedom, which they bring out every 2 or 3 years. It's beginning to get, I think, some kind of awareness.
After my incredibly sobering chat with Bishop John, I have come along to meet Joe Kelly, who is the Youth Engagement Officer for the ACN. Hi Joe, thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's great. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. So Joe, tell me a little more about your job and how does it incorporate Red Wednesday?
Yeah, so my job at ACN is the Youth Engagement Officer, and that means my job basically is to travel all around schools in Scotland talking about the work of our charity and helping young people engage in our work. That's primary schools and secondary schools, and this Red Wednesday we have loads of our secondary schools across Scotland engage in the vital work of ACN. And basically I do that by going and visiting schools ahead of the time, and I chat to the pupils about what Red Wednesday is about, and I talk about our youth membership programme too, which allows young people to be recognised for the work they do by doing prayer, information and action as they participate throughout Red Wednesday. And then after Red Wednesday, my job is to continue keeping relationships with schools, maybe even reaching out to new schools and helping them get involved with prayer, information and action throughout the year. It's a great job and I absolutely love it, and it's great to see so many schools this year actually engage in Red Wednesday. It was really cool.
And is it only Catholic schools that can take part, or can any school take part?
Yeah, so at Aid to the Church in Need, we're a Catholic charity, but we do support persecuted Christians throughout the whole world. So we're not limited to just supporting Catholics, and I'm definitely not limited to just going into Catholic schools. So if others were interested in having me, that would be great too.
When you go into schools, what kind of things do you do? What do you say?
Yeah, so I do a variety of different things in schools. I can do workshops, assemblies, and all sorts of different things like that. But really our main mission is to get across to young people that people are persecuted for their faith every single day across the whole world. And it's a staggering number of people that are actually persecuted for their faith. In about 2/3 of the world, people are persecuted for their faith.
What, as much as 2/3
Yeah,
of the world?
2/3.
Really?
And actually 80% of them are Christians. 80% of them are people who believe in Jesus. And at Aid to the Church in Need, we don't think that the pupils in Scotland know about that enough. And basically my job is to tell them about that. And often we do get feedback from pupils saying, why don't we hear this on the news, or why don't we understand, or why don't we get told about these statistics? So it is really important work. So I go into the schools and I explain the situation. I tell them about stories from Burkina Faso, from Pakistan, from Egypt, from different places like that. And I explain what's really going on in these places. And often even that is an eye-opening thing for these pupils who go to Catholic schools and can go to Mass every day, and that there's no problem with that or whatever, you know. So yeah, it's a big thing for them even just to realise that. And then at the end of the assembly, basically I make an ask. Would they become a member of school? Would they do something for Aid to the Church in Need? And generally the answer is yes. Generally a school is really happy to get involved. So when they do that, I would ask them every year that they do one prayer thing, one information thing and one action thing. And I think later on you might hear from them what that looks like or what that could look like. And that's a big way for us to recognise the school. They can support ACN and we'll give them badges, certificates, and I can come out even again and maybe do another workshop or a different presentation to a different year in the school. It's great work and we absolutely love it.
So when pupils, do all these things for Red Wednesday and raise money and take part in events, is that match funded?
Yeah, so actually this year we have a match giving campaign where any amount that a school gives for Red Wednesday, we're able to double that. And that's actually quite an unusual thing for a charity that does our kind of work. Governments are not able to double money that we give, unlike other charities, because we support specifically Christian initiatives. And the government, if they did that for our charity, they would have to do that for every other charity that supports only Christian initiatives. So they'll support like international aid funds and things like that, but actually they're not able to support our work because we do individually Christian, specifically Christian kind of work. But this year we have benefactors, very generous benefactors, who have agreed to double whatever schools across Scotland give us for Red Wednesday. And as we're getting checks in for Red Wednesday now, it's brilliant to be able to say that we're doubling these figures that our schools are giving us.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I know later on I'll be going to speak to some pupils from schools that did take part in Red Wednesday. But can adults take part as well?
Yeah, definitely. And this year for our Red Wednesday on the 19th of November, we had 5 cathedral masses where people could attend a cathedral mass, usually with the bishop there. And we prayed for persecuted Christians during Mass, and there was a chance to buy Christmas cards and different things like that afterwards, which is a way to support the work of our charity. And next year we're hoping to be in every single cathedral across Scotland, so no one has the excuse to miss out on a Red Wednesday Mass, and it would be great to see them at one of these events.
So I have come to meet Niamh and Winnie from St Andrews in Paisley to find out how their school got involved for Red Wednesday. Hi there, girls. Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
So tell me what happened on Red Wednesday at your school.
Basically, we did a bake sale where we raised money for the ACN, and we also gave out little badges and stickers.
We also have our school auditory open on Thursday at lunch, where we had a mass specially dedicated to Red Wednesday.
Why do you think it's important as a school and as pupils in that school to take part in Red Wednesday?
Well, considering how we're a Catholic school, and Red Wednesday is obviously about coming together and being the voice for Christians worldwide who are prosecuted and discriminated against for their faith. It's really important to really highlight how big of a problem this is and try to do our part in easing it.
Yeah, because I think sometimes, especially in Scotland, we feel so safe to practice our faith that we don't realise that maybe sometimes other countries aren't so lucky, and other pupils and the youth of other countries aren't so lucky.
An example of this could be, so I recently read a case study, and it happened about a year ago, I'd say. So this is very recent, about a girl, so she's in medical school, and she was dropping her little brother off at school before she was off to head to an exam. But she just never came home, and I don't even think she turned up to the exam. And a few days later, her family got a call from her, and she was telling them that she'd been abducted and who the abductor was, where she was, and sort. So her family contacted the police, and the police essentially said, "There's nothing we can do because she's eloped and changed her religion." Even though this was clearly an abduction, so due to the law, now she's just never going to be able to go home or see her family again, and she's still out there today, but nothing can be done to help her.
Can you imagine if that happens like in Scotland?
We never have to worry about that kind of thing here in Scotland, and to think this is happening to tons and millions of people around the world. It's important to do your part.
I asked Niamh and Winnie if every school takes part in Red Wednesday, and this was their response.
I believe not, but I think every Catholic school should do it because it is very important. We meet every few weeks to discuss okay, what are we going to do next? How are we going to help people? How are we going to try get more people involved and get more people aware of what's going on? And we focus on 3 things: prayer, which we have often in the auditory, and we pray for those who are persecuted in other countries around the world. Information, we often have posters around our school, and we have meetings where we tell people about what our group is, what do we do, and sort of how people can get involved. And then by Action, we have a lot of fundraisers sort. We recently had one, a bake sale, where we raised over £400.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done, you guys. You should be really proud of yourselves. How would a school take part then if they want to take part?
So you don't have to become a member school to take part. Anyone can take part in Red Wednesday and help raise money for persecuted Christians. But if you would like to become a member school, a group of students can contact their RE teacher, and the RE teacher can sign up using the form.
And basically, if you become a member school or even just get involved in general, you get to like learn about case studies, you get to have visitors coming in. And basically what we've just heard is that next year for youth rallies, the booking's only gonna go forward first to membership schools.
Another benefit.
Tell me about this youth rally.
All the membership schools came together to basically this big event where we talked about more in depth the persecution of Christians worldwide. We looked at specific cases. We looked at what the ACN actually does to like help them, like those like people in these countries. And we also had a real life guest make an appearance. I think it was Tim Fischel, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Where he was a North Korean escapee and basically told us his experience with Christianity.
A lot of the time we do have a guest every year, and it is really powerful to hear their story, and I feel like that does kind of contribute to why we want to participate in Red Wednesday and why we want to help these persecuted Christians, because seeing someone like who really does face this, it does make it a lot more real, and it does make it a lot more I have to do something, and it does empower you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So pupils should badger their RE teachers to become a membership school.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to pick you up on your point there, we actually did a podcast with Timothy Cho. Mm-hmm. So when he went to St. Joseph's in Clarkston, we recorded his chat and put it out as a podcast. And I would say if anyone hasn't listened to it yet, listen to it, because as you'll know yourself, having heard him speak, his experience in life is just absolutely phenomenal. He's got some story to tell. What does life look like in a Scottish Catholic school today?
We have our oratory, and we basically have weekly masses in it. And in the weekly masses, a lot of the students do their readings. Like, we get involved.
Pretty soon we have our St. Andrew's feast day upcoming. What happens is the whole school, everybody goes down to the cathedral. We all sit for Mass in St. Midden's Cathedral with Bishop John, and it is such a lovely thing to have the whole school together, everyone in one place, every class and sort, and it really does bring us all together and brings our faith together. I think it is very good that we have all these things like at our fingertips, because obviously a lot of other countries don't, so like to have these things and not be able to be afraid to have our faith and share it and like practice it, it really is a big thing that I think a lot of people take for granted.
After being so inspired by St Andrews in Paisley, I've come along to meet with Nola, Gigi and Joe, who are 5th year pupils at St Ninian's. Hi guys, how are you?
Hey!
Nola, what did you do for Red Wednesday?
Red Wednesday is basically a day where we work together in our group to raise awareness for aid to the church in need. So we all attended the youth rally back in September with so many schools across Scotland, and basically as a group we thought it was important, after seeing the impact of the prosecution of Christians across the world, Catholics, Christians, the full Christian faith, that it's important to do something for it.
To raise money for ACN, we did a really great bake sale, contributed from staff and pupils from all year groups. We also sold red bracelets, which were made by S1 and S2 pupils during their lunch times. We also gave out red wooden heart tokens with ACN written on them for people to have in their pockets as a reminder of Red Wednesday and the importance of supporting this charity.
And we raised a lot of money. We raised £335, and ACN supporters, thanks to them, it's going to be doubled to £670.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Within our school, we as a year group S5, where we got a talk from Joel, and everyone really enjoyed it. He asked us a lot of questions and made us really think about it. And we would also encourage next year's S5 to take the opportunity to go along and help with ACN and to sign up and become advocates. So.
And it's like good because like as ACN youth membership, like we can use like prayer information in action, and that helps us to like basically move ourselves forward into basically making a difference and donating money and basically just like helping people who are affected by prosecution across the world.
And last week we celebrated Catholic Education Week, and we prayed for all the learners and teachers involved in the teaching, because we are very lucky to have a protected Catholic school when we know that a lot of people don't, especially like that's what we learned via Aid to the Church in Need. So we're really grateful that we can access our faith without persecution.
A really good like representation of that was the case study we did on Akash from Pakistan. He was 18 years old, and basically he was like almost like a guard that stands in front of the door of the church, because they know a lot of people want to hurt and kind of corrupt like Christians in that country. So basically this man came in, he was like a suicide bomber, and he went to go in, and there was about 2,500 people in the church at the time, and Akash basically hugged the suicide bomber so it didn't explode and basically saved majority of the people. Only 5 people died, which is still a shame, but like imagine how many more could have died if he actually got in. And the fact that he did that just kind of shows like he truly did like love everybody, and he like showed an example. And since then, like 1,800 baptisms have been taking place. Like so many things have been celebrated there because he saved basically the people inside and the church itself.
I feel like it really puts things into perspective, because we're 16, and the fact that he was only 18 and he managed to save so many people, it really is. It's an incredible thing.
It's a very big thing to ask of somebody to do, even though like nobody asked him to do it. Like it was almost like he was like called to do it.
Yeah.
You guys get such an amazing opportunity being part of a membership school for Red Wednesday. Do you think that other schools should get involved?
I think that so many schools actually are involved. Like if you look at the ACN page, that you'll see that there's so many schools that take part in it and really, really enjoy it, and it's celebrated all over Scotland. But it would be nice to see some maybe like non-Catholic schools taking part, because you know it kind of just gives that sense of community that you might not be a part of it, but you still care, and that there's still like the love that we would show for you, you would show back for us.
So you know now, I've been out to schools, St Andrews and St Ninian's, and I've met pupils, and they told me everything they did for Red Wednesday, and it sounds like they had just such amazing opportunities and such a brilliant experience. What would you say to any other schools that are thinking about taking part?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great to see so many schools take part this Red Wednesday, and we are so thankful to these schools that are doing it, and we're sending out certificates and badges and stuff to schools who have taken part. But to any school who's considering it, I would invite them to send me an email or to get in touch and to say that they would be interested. I'd be delighted to come out, even just have a chat to see what they could do for Red Wednesday or for Aid to the Church in Need. We have loads of different campaigns and initiatives throughout the year, both for primary schools and secondary schools, so there's always a good time for them to get involved, and I'd be delighted to have a chat with them to chat about that.
If you would like some more information about Red Wednesday, or you would like to get your school involved, or you would like to donate, please visit acnuk.org/Red Wednesday. And if you've been enjoying the Diocese of Paisley podcast, please remember to like and subscribe and leave us a review. Until next time.